Hi there. This is a teaching on classification of costs by behavior. Classification implies to us where would you classify each of your costs and what type of cost will you call that cost you may have incurred. And classification by behavior requires us to classify the costs as variable costs, costs that change as your activity level increases. And when we say cost that changes, we are literally saying that the total cost will change. So if I ask you to make 2 tables and maybe you need 1 meter of wood per table, if we ask you to make 20 tables, logic has it that you will need more wood. And if we tell you to make 10 tables, you need less wood. And if we tell you to make 100 tables, you need, of course, more wood. The material cost and the total of the material cost will continue to increase. But what we'll find is that the unit cost of your material will remain the same. It does not change. Or they ask you to classify cost into fixed cost. Fixed cost means that the total cost will not change no matter the activity level you are delivering at. For example, your rent cost, no matter the number of tables you may be making, you will find that the rent for the factory will remain the same as long as you're making the tables in that same factory. When we say the rent for the month, it will be the same next month and the month after and the month after, not dependent on how many tables you have made. Fixed cost. The total cost will be the same, but the cost per unit will continue to change. When we say semi-variable cost, it has an element of fixed cost and an element of variable cost. That will mean that if you double your production, your cost will change, but it will not double. The total cost will change and the unit cost will also change as your activity level changes. Stepped cost means that you will have your total costs increasing after a certain level of activity has been met. You will need to increase your cost in order to be able to produce more activity levels or at a higher activity level. That means that as the total cost is changing, the unit cost will also change from activity level to activity level. Now we've put in here a simple summary table that gives you a snippet picture of what will happen to the total cost and the unit cost for the different types of costs as activity level changes. We want to look at a simple calculation exercise now. Identify the type of cost behavior described in each statement in the table below. Costs are £80,000 at 3,200 units and £80,000 at 4,400 units. It implies to me that the total cost is not changing despite their change in activity level. That means it's fixed cost. Costs are £4.30 per unit at 2,100 units and £4.30 per unit at 3,200 units. That means the cost per unit is not changing. That implies to me it is variable cost. Again, in line with the table we have above, you will also see that it's variable cost only that the cost per unit doesn't change, and it's fixed cost only that the total cost does not change. Costs are 18,200 at 4,000 units and 21,240 at 4,800 units. You can see in this situation the total cost is changing, but we need to identify whether the unit cost will change as well or whether the unit cost will not change. If the unit cost will not change, then it means that it will be variable cost. But if the unit cost changes and the total cost changes, then it will be semi-variable cost. That means there will be an element of fixed and an element of variable cost. So we want you to calculate the cost per unit. 18,200 divided by 4,000 units. And that will give me 4.55. Then we would also divide 21,240 divided by 24,800, and that will give me 4.425. So we can see the cost per unit is changing and the total cost is changing, and that leaves me with semi-variable cost as my option in this case. We want you to do the other items on the list, and then of course we will compare your answers with mine, or we want you to compare your answers with mine, and I'm sure you will be fine. So I hope you got your answers correct. Please notice the next one we have there is fixed cost. You will need to calculate the total cost for the two circumstances. So 4 times 6,200, 4.96 times 5,000 units, and they both give me 24,800. That means the total cost is fixed, it's not moving. Costs are 14.80 per unit at 500 units and £13 per unit at 800 units. I've been given the cost per unit and they both are different. So it means I need to calculate the total cost. You multiply 1480 by 500, 13 by 800 and compare. Is the cost the same? The total costs, one is 7,400, one is 10,400. So the unit cost is changing, the total cost is changing. It means it's semi-variable cost. Then we have the next one that they've given me the total cost at 15,000 units and total cost at 10,900 units. So I need to find the cost per unit. 56250 divided by 15,000, 40875 divided by 10,900, and you will see that both will give me £3.75. So it is variable cost. The cost per unit is the same. And then the next one says to us, costs of 78,000 are made up of no fixed charge at any activity level of 25,000 units. At an activity level of 25,000 units. So that means that there is no fixed charge. If there is no fixed charge, it cannot be fixed cost, it cannot be semi-variable cost, it cannot be stepped cost. Not that we have stepped cost as an option anyway. So it leaves me with the only option of being a variable cost, which it is. Okay, I hope this has been useful. The rest of it is study ongoing. Please feel free to follow us, like us, connect with us on all the social media platforms, and subscribe to this video if it has been useful. Thank you and adios.